Trust.
Offer from KMF for the purchase of a new 2022 Soul with $21.65 per month per 1,000 financed in 48 months. Quantities limited. No down payment required. Cannot be combined with other finance offers. The 20-year, 200,000-mile warranty is a Bill Bird Kia warranty. See dealer for complete details. Offer for well-qualified buyers. Must take delivery from dealer stock through 7/5/22.
Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle, this is Tim.
Do y'all sell bait?
Yes, we seasonally stock live shrimp, live bull minnows, live sand fleas, live fiddler crabs, earthworms, night crawlers, crickets. We also stock frozen shrimp, sand fleas, mullet, squid, pre-rigged ballyhoo, bonita, stingray, cigar minnows, Boston mackerel, Spanish mackerel, and a few other miscellaneous baits. It's worth the drive to buy premium locally sourced bait from Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle, located directly off Highway 98 on the west end of Panama City Beach.
Is radio dead? Not long ago, I came across an article that took several pages to say that new media would soon kill radio. In fact, the writer was so certain, he even put an expiration date on it. He said they would stop making radios altogether by 1955. He was talking about television, of course. A recent national survey by the Nielsen Company says that local radio is growing and now reaches more people than television. Let me say that again. Local radio reaches more people than television. Also, more than any social medium, including Pandora, Facebook, smartphones, all of them. And satellite radio isn't even in the race. Let ESPN Northwest Florida help grow your business with the power of sports. Call 850-215-4468 or online at espnpc.com and click on the Connect tab.
You can turn 18 ordinary minutes into extraordinary support for Israel and her people by joining 18 for Israel today. 18 for Israel gives faithful people like you the opportunity to care for the Holy Land's poorest, providing life-saving care to struggling Jewish families. Just 18 minutes can change the lives of so many, letting suffering Jews know they are not forgotten, they are not alone. Discover more at 18min.org.
We're your home for live sports. WGSX Lynn Haven, WTOT, W271DM Mariana. Powered by Pepsi. ESPN Northwest Florida.
Transmission starts in 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from the Rib Crib Radio Room. The Afternoon Underdogs are taking your calls live. 850-215-6290. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
We are inside of the Rib Crib Radio Room here on a extremely hot Tuesday afternoon, man. It takes me back to the time when I used to put up awnings or do painting and was outside a lot more than I am at least these days. So make sure that when you're outside working, you're not doing too much. You drink plenty of water. Just take care of yourself and be careful with this heat that we're dealing with right now. We're in a heat advisory, man. It is extremely hot out there, but we'll keep on moving on. Last night in the world of the NBA Finals, Golden State and the Warriors win Game 5 by 10 points, 104-94. Who would have thought that it was Andrew Wiggins that was going to be the X factor last night? He had 26 points, going 12 of 23, shooting from the floor, 13 rebounds to go along with it. First time playoffs or regular season that he led the Warriors in both of those categories. He also had 2 steals, 2 assists, and 1 block to go along with it. Now, if you would have told me going into the game last night that the Golden State Warriors were going to win by 10 points, and Steph Curry was going to go 0 for 9 from three-point land, just adding 16 points along with that, there's no way in the world that I would have believed you. Klay Thompson added 21 points to that, and then you see the bench just kind of help out with 29 extra points. Gary Payton with 15 and Jordan Poole with 14. Now, there's been a lot of questions about the officiating. I just can't get down with that too much. I think that it's been inconsistent. I'll give you inconsistency, but you've got Marcus Smart flopping. You've got Jordan Poole who's flopping. All of these guys flop. There's no incentive to not flop these days. I'll be straight up honest with you. The more basketball I watch these days, especially at the NBA level, the more I'm like, why? What is going on? It is a fun sport. It's fast paced, so I like that element of it. But when I'm just tired of it's like this. They go into the lane. Tatum, there's a lot of Celtics fans complaining about the calls or the lack of calls. Tatum will go into the lane on a hard drive and he'll get roughed up a little bit. No call. Then you'll see Steph Curry or Jaylen Brown on the perimeter dribbling a little bit, slight reach in, and they're making the call. Come on now. Let's stop with the pity pat crap. I'm tired of that. And then on top of that, like the blocks and the charges, you just never know which way that's going. I say that unless unless someone is really getting battered when we're here in the NBA Finals, just hold on to the whistle. Swallow the whistle. We don't need to hear it. I'd rather the players in every sport, but we're talking about the NBA Finals today. I would rather the players be the ones to produce the end result or produce the result regardless. But Boston, all right, and all their fans have been kind of beating up the officiating. Well, guys, y'all went 21 of 31 from the free throw. So first off, you lost by 10 points. The Celtics lost by 10 points and they missed 10 free throws. So there's that. Then you also have 18 turnovers, which could be because of a foul every now and again. Yeah, I'm right there with you, but let's just be honest with ourselves. Boston was not protecting the ball. Too many silly turnovers last night especially, but that's kind of been the status quo for this series to this point. Oh, and let's not count the Boston Celtics out. They were here in this situation just in not the last series, but against the Milwaukee Bucks to have to get past Milwaukee. They went down 3-2, get back to Boston. They win game 6 and then win game 7. So this is not out of the realm of possibilities for them to win. Now, the difference in the Milwaukee Bucks and the Golden State Warriors, you had Chris Middleton who was out for the Milwaukee Bucks, whereas it seems as if the Golden State Warriors are clicking on all cylinders. Like I mentioned, you look at the bench, and I'd have to get back into the box score real quick too, and I'm pulling that up now to see exactly what it was, the lack of production from the bench of the Boston Celtics last night, but what you're getting out of the Golden State Warriors, Gary Payton coming back since, first round when he hurt his elbow, he gives you 15. Jordan Poole, how about that shot at the end of the third quarter to put the Warriors up by 1? So that is one of the biggest differences to me. We can moan and complain all we want about the officiating, but there's depth on the side of the Golden State Warriors. And there's a lot of youth on the Boston Celtics. So I think that plays a huge role. We're going to have Kevin Pelton on the line with us at 5 o'clock today. He writes for ESPN covering the NBA. So let's take a look real quick at the Boston Celtics bench. 10 points. 10 points is what they gave you. You got 3 points from Grant Williams. You got 3 points from Cornette. And then you got 3 points from Nesmith and 1 point out of 21 minutes, 1 point out of 21 minutes going 0 for 4 from the floor, and Derek White 0 for 3 from 3-point. So those are the things that they're going to have to try to reel in here if you're going to win Game 6, because Steph Curry, after going 0 for 9 from 3-point land, come on now, you guys know he is coming back with a vengeance, to say the least, in Game 6. Klay Thompson, the evolution, or not the evolution, but the comeback for him has been amazing. But who would have put it on Andrew Wiggins? Who was going to say last night Andrew Wiggins is going to be one of the main reasons that the Golden State Warriors come away with Game 5. Game 6 will be in Boston. Can't wait for that game. We'll see how it all plays out. That's going to be this Thursday at 8 o'clock our time on ABC in Boston. Big games from Andrew Wiggins. It's really Klay Thompson's always been, if I were to have a favorite player on the Warriors, it would be Klay Thompson. I like the way that he plays, and he's not the dominator like Steph and Curry. He kind of became that third outlet there. So it was a lot of fun for me to keep up with Klay Thompson and then to battle back the way that he has from injuries to this point. Definitely rooting for that guy. Golden State Warriors, 13 of 15 from the free throw line last night. So I just can't give a lot of credit to the Boston Celtics fans, which is many of them are using the excuse of officiating when we should all know, as bad as it is, or if you want to think that the NBA has script writers and that could be the case, I'm never going to be the one until there's actually proof of that. I just can't get on that train because why am I doing what I'm doing if this stuff is fabricated? It's no fun. I might as well just go watch movies about sports, and then I'll be in a better position because at least I know that it is what it is. We're on the radio at 104.3 FM. We're on 102.1 FM in Marianna. We're streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and with our TV partner, Blab TV. If you don't have their channel through your service or your TV service provider, you can get their app or channel on Fire Stick or Roku TV. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel, download the new app, and register, all at 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida. The stage is set. Stanford and Auburn got the wins yesterday to move on to the College World Series. So at 4:30, I've got Chandler Permenter back in the booth with us today, talking some the Super Regionals, what he took away from the Super Regionals, and then we'll also be looking ahead slightly to the College World Series. As I mentioned earlier, we've got Kevin Pelton on with us at 5 o'clock. He is an NBA writer for ESPN, so that should be a lot of fun. We've got Caveman Rick stepping into the building right now, which gives me it makes me happy to talk about the Stanley Cup Final with someone who loves themselves some hockey. Should be a good one. We really do have the two best teams in the NBA. The Atlanta Braves keep on winning right now, winning streak of 12, but there was a big loss, and we'll find out more about that at 5:30. And then in the high school spotlight, we'll catch you up with all things local. Now, Caveman, do you remember Slapgate, where Tommy Pham slapped Jock Peterson?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So it's getting a little bit more, not heated, but there's more elements to it now. So Mike Trout, he was the commissioner for this controversial fantasy league. He told ESPN Sunday Night Baseball crew that Alex Bregman ended up winning that league, and that was a $10,000 buy-in. I don't know how many teams they had total in that league, and Pham never played past week 5 or 6. Yeah, but he better had paid his money up front, or else there is no reason in the world that you should ever slap somebody if you can't even pony up the money before the season.
Well, any of the leagues I've done for money, that's one of the first things you got to put it up front. You know, it's not none of this like, down the road and you're going to pay, because obviously if you don't do so hot, you might have somebody drop out and give a reason why they're not there.
There's one league that I'm in that we always say, have your money before the draft, but we end up kind of letting it slide for people. And as long as you get it by the playoffs, then we're good. And we've never had a problem collecting the money, so that's why it works out. But we're also kind of lifelong friends type deals.
Yeah, and that's cool. And I mean, gambling's the kind of thing, and I'm not trying to preach to people, but I mean, if you can't afford that, bet or whatever, you probably shouldn't be doing it. So if it's kind of tough for you to, pony up the money, then maybe you should find a league that's maybe a little less steep as far as the buy-in, or just go free, or something like that, so you don't have to worry about those kinds of things.
I know a great league, man. We're going to have 3 of them here on ESPN Northwest Florida. One of them is going to be for the Champions League, so that was the top. We had 3 leagues last year, exactly. Yep. So we'll have the top 4 teams from each league each year compile what the Champions League is, and then we'll have the North and we'll have the South, and those are going to be free for all. So if you're interested in playing fantasy football, probably about middle of July, I'm going to be ramping it up. But if you're interested, make sure that you're listening, because each week we're going to be having Derek Tate on. It's going to be a great fantasy year this year.
It's right around the corner. Before you know it, will be spring training and the season will be starting. So, I mean, you got to do this kind of stuff and get it planned ahead of time, because if you don't and you're trying to do it last minute, it gets kind of tough.
And we are approaching our 5th year anniversary here with 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida. So it's going to be a special year and a lot of cool, I promise you guys. I can't leak it just at this point in time, but we've got some prized packages in the works right now that are going to be absolutely killer. So you had back to this story here, you had some of the Giants players, they took the field for warm-ups yesterday evening with shirts that said stashing players on the IR isn't cheating, and that's a show of support for Jock Peterson. I think that's really cool of the Giants players to do that. Going to be interesting. Well, I don't know if the Reds and the Giants are going to be playing again this year, but I dadgum sure do wish they would.
It'd be nice. And I mean, I don't see what all the hubbub is about this anyways. If you're following the rules, even if it's maybe not the most savory thing that you're doing, as long as it's within the rules, how can anybody complain?
That's where I'm at. And it really is totally dependent upon what the commissioner, because we always do votes. As soon as we get done with our fantasy draft, then we have a vote, and we make sure if we've got 6 people in the league, or if I mean 6 people, wow, that would be some fireworks in that league. If we've got 10 people in the league like we did last year, then we need at least 6 people to stay over after the draft. That way, it doesn't matter what everybody thinks. That's irrelevant. If 6 people pass it, then we're moving on, because that's the problem with a lot of leagues is everybody wants to get everybody's individual, and a lot of people don't even care.
Right.
But you do need to have the majority vote for it, and then you can have a great league. And so they should have set this up first off. So a lot of people did start adding that second IR spot because of the COVID season, and especially before last year. It was like, well, we saw what happened in 2020. Why not add an extra one? So if the guy's injured or if he has the COVID status for that week, you can stash him. I have no problem with that. Now, if you got a healthy guy, I'm not even sure if you could put a healthy guy on IR.
Well, you can't. You're not supposed to be able to.
I know, but I don't even think that you physically can do that.
The IR is supposed to be for people that can't play for 4-6 weeks or something like that, not even for the COVID. And like you said, they had to add that in there because we were seeing Monday night, or we were seeing games that should have been played on Sunday being played like on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. And that can affect your fantasy lineup if your guy can't go. If you have a better opportunity to start somebody, but hey, this guy over here that might be playing Tuesday can get me more points. That's why dudes like Matthew Berry on ESPN were talking about commissioners setting up like an IR spot where you can have an either or, and both guys play, and then you just take whoever got the most points, and that's who's on.
Oh no, we didn't do that. We did it where it was this right here. You can have one for a long-term injured guy, and you can have one for COVID. Right. If anyone else in the league can snapshot a picture of you having 2 COVID guys on, or you know what I mean, or even really stashing 2 guys long-term like that, I'm not a big fan of. But if that's the situation that we're in, we'll deal with it as we come to it.
Take it up with your commissioner if you
100%.
Like it, and it sounds to me like Tommy Fan, like he's just upset that he didn't think of it first. And so, if he could exploit the situation, I'm sure he would. It sounds like he's that kind of a guy.
Yeah, he definitely sounds like he's that type of a guy.
It sounds to me like sour grapes. Like, he didn't think of it first, obviously. So then he's upset because he didn't, like I said, he wasn't able to exploit it. So that's on him.
It's 1,000% on Tommy Pham in this situation. And Jock Peterson, after being the one who got slapped and got belittled, if you will, I feel like his response and his transparency with the reporters is another, just kind of another way to make him look like the good guy.
And he's got bragging rights. He won the league.
Well, Alex Bregman won the league.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. He did. It was Bregman. That's right. I'm sorry. You gave me the wrong.
Man, that's got to be some good money, though.
Right.
$10,000 value.
If you had 10 people right there.
That's a hundo.
Geez, yeah. Well, and that depends if it's winner take all, unless you pay out like first and second, or first, second, and third, perhaps, or something.
We still need to work on. I know this is just kind of a me and you thing, and not all the listeners, but we're wanting to do a dynasty league.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that would be a lot of fun. I don't know if I'm ready to put money on a dynasty league, you know what I mean? Yeah. Just because it's one of those things that once you draft, you're stuck with those players for a little while, or you better make some good trades.
The first year probably wouldn't be so bad because you're starting from scratch, just like
it's
a
regular
draft,
year.
You know, but then going down the road, depending on how you drafted and how your team works out with injury or players retiring or just whatever may happen, then you might start getting a bit of a pickle, like, oh, what am I doing here? This is a lot of money I'm putting up, and my team ain't so great. But that's part of the fun anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's part of you being a good, fantasy manager. Yeah, you might have a great team this year, but that's what's great about those dynasty leagues. It's not about this week or the next week or even like the playoffs. You're talking, you got to look down the road, like next season. I've seen
people on Twitter talking about they've had their seasons going for 33 years. I'm like, oh, so you were playing back in the mail 'em in type days, man.
Doubt, man. Where like you're just going through sheets of paper and you're trying to.
You're going through the newspaper, yeah.
Or like you got lists of people like you're drafting and you're just crossing off people as they get drafted, so you're not trying to redraft the same person and whatnot. I can imagine how crazy that must have been back then.
Oh my gosh, my cousin Joey Ramsey was telling me about that. It was a while back, but yeah, he was telling me about those times, and he's a big Browns fan. So, I'm curious as to how he's feeling about what the Cleveland Browns are going to be doing here in 2022. It's time for us to take a timeout. We'll be right back.
ESPN Northwest Florida, the Paul Feinbaum Show.
Dwayne is in Mississippi. Hello, Dwayne.
You know, I was a prison guard, and I hear them talking about all that prison yard stuff. It's not that bad.
What kind of weapons are you carrying?
Just pepper spray and handcuffs.
Would you go into a cell block with Handsome Joe with just pepper spray?
The Paul Feinbaum Show, weekdays 6 to 10 on 102.1 and 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Weather forecast overnight for the entire listening area. Spotty showers and thunderstorms roaming around. Mid to upper 70s for the low, light west winds. Wednesday and Thursday will go with a 30% coverage of showers and thunderstorms. Partly to mostly sunny Wednesday and Thursday. The high temperature near 90. This weather forecast has been brought to you by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. For 104.3 and 102.1 ESPN Northwest Florida, I'm meteorologist Tim Root.
Hear that? That's the plumpest, juiciest hot dogs you've ever seen getting their grill on. But we both know what'll make it sound even better. Oh yeah, it's a Pepsi to go with your hot dog. Because when you're chomping on America's favorite meal, relish, mustard, and onions perfectly blending into a crescendo of flavor, there's only one thing that makes everything about that moment better. A cold, refreshing Pepsi. See what I mean? It's like music to my ears. Hot dogs. Better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
You know that sound anywhere. It's the crisp crunch of that first nacho chip. With its perfect cheese to sour cream ratio sitting atop a layer of delicious beans, it's a sip away from perfection. That's what we're looking for. Add a delicious, refreshing Pepsi and we've achieved absolute nacho nirvana. Because while you can pile those nachos high with every spicy, cheesy, savory topping, there's no topping a cool Pepsi finish. Nachos, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
Mid-South Lumber has new owners. Stop in and visit Ann and Dave. They're on site every day to make you a priority. They're not the typical big box store, and customer service is their #1 priority. Locally owned and operated for over 40 years. Transform your home with James Hardy Siding. Durability, fire resistant, sustainability. James Hardy Color Plus is virtually maintenance-free and comes with a 30-year warranty. Mid-South Lumber, the biggest little lumber yard in Panama City.
Now back to the most dangerous afternoon show on terrestrial radio.
Danger's my middle name.
It's illegal in 5 states. The Afternoon Underdogs, inside the Rib Crib Radio Room. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
All right, you're listening to 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida. I've got Facebook pulled up now so I can look at you guys' comments. We've got Wild Will in the house. Good to hear from you, Wild Will. I will actually invite you to the Champions League this year if you were part of the champions. If you were part of the top 4 in one of the leagues, I just got to go back. I've got them all almost ready to put back out, so I'm excited about that. I absolutely love playing fantasy, and we will be doing a live draft, or as live as we can, because Wild Will himself lives up there in South Carolina. Can't wait to talk in the next segment with Chandler Permenter, talking some college baseball. 5 o'clock, we've got Kevin Pelton. And then tonight, 6 o'clock, first pitch, you've got the Braves and the National, or 6:05 first pitch, 6 o'clock for the cover star. As long as we don't get another very long rain delay. Game didn't get started last night until about 7-something. It was a pretty lengthy rain delay, so I was tuned into the finals and kind of kept track of the Braves game last night. Didn't watch it as much, but 12-game winning streak, injury to a big-time player for the Atlanta Braves who is now on the injured list for 60 days. Find out more about that at 5:30 today. But tonight, 6 o'clock, coverage starts. First pitch, 6:05. Max Fried on the hill tonight for the Atlanta Braves. Klay Thompson, man, speaking of the basketball player, I don't know if you guys have ever watched YouTube and watched this guy, Dawes. His last name is Gurley, Dawes Gurley. Dawes TV, I believe it is, on YouTube. I've seen a good number of his videos, actually. He's kind of like one of those guys who'll go onto a college campus and just do spoofy stuff, you know what I mean? Just kind of funny videos, but asking weird questions and all that kind of stuff. So he participated in the shoot-around last night before Game 5. He parked in the players' parking lot or in the employee parking lot, and he got past the security guard. If you ever saw an NBA player driving up to the parking lot, and he was already dressed in his uniform for the game, like, does that
That
not
should throw you off.
Does that not raise a bunch of red flags right there?
So this was at Golden State, right?
Yeah, this is.
So if you remember, I want to say it was 2 years ago. There was a fan. It was some younger kid, and he was able to find a clever way to get down to the floor and watch the games down there. I don't remember hearing about this, but what he would do was he would buy like the cheapest seat that you can buy, like a standing room only seat or something like that. And then he would get online, and somehow or another, he would screenshot like a picture of an actual like real ticket for like the floor or something. And he would just show that to him, and that's how you got down there. Well, he was sitting in these seats that I'm guessing some like bazillionaires own, because these seats that he typically sat in, like nobody sat in the majority of the time, like the whole entire season, right?
Mm-hmm.
So somebody's got like buku bucks that they ponied up for these seats, like for season tickets, and they're barely even using them. Must be kind of nice. I wish I had that kind of loot to do
Amen.
that, so I can know what that's like. But then the kid's a dope. Instead of keeping the secret so he can keep it rolling, he goes on to YouTube and explains it all and like basically like rats himself out. So right away, then they're like, okay, we got it figured out. And so now you ain't getting in no more, on this little scheme that he had. But this kid, I don't know, I can't remember his name, but if you guys look it up on YouTube, I swear it was a couple of years ago, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Man, did he have a scheme set up. And boy, he could have exploited it for a while probably if he was a little smarter, I guess.
Multiple fans outside of the Chase Center last night saw this guy, or actually it was during the day before it even got close to game time, and they were thinking it was Klay Thompson, and then you had people who could see right through it. I love that point, though. Why snitch on yourself?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? But why do they do it, caveman? But why? Exactly. That's 100%. That's the.
Why do you need to brag?
Back in our day, we would tell our closest friends, and that would be it. You know what I mean?
I would tell like maybe a buddy of mine or two that I know wasn't going to spill the beans.
Yeah.
Maybe that they wanted to come to or whatever and check out what I was doing.
But I'm not telling everybody till years down the road, and then it's a really cool story.
Or something and it, man. Hey, I got it down to the floor 10 years in a row by doing this, and I got to see all these great, like basketball moments from Golden State, because that's where he was doing it. And he didn't have it like any other place. And geez, man, like he could have profited it down the road after he had all this great experience.
You know what? The craziest part of this story, if I'm not mistaken, he actually had tickets to the game as well.
Yeah, he bought, like, let's say he would buy like the
No, I'm talking about this guy.
Oh, yeah,
this guy actually had tickets to the game. So and there's video of it if you go on his channel, or I think I saw it on Twitter. So he goes into the parking lot, right? Passes through 2 security gates, then parks down there in the parking lot, and then he's got the video of him shooting on the court and stuff. And it's just wild. But he apparently had already had tickets. He was there in 2015, 17, 18 for the other final runs, and he shot for 10 minutes before he was even noticed. I mean, there's got to be I've seen this guy, and he, I've watched, like I said, I've watched Dawes videos before. There's a big difference in the way that Klay Thompson looks and the way Klay Thompson's hair is now compared to that. I mean, it's a bad doppelganger.
I'm sure some people were afraid that, like, hey, if I question this guy, boy, I'll look like a dope if it really is like Klay Thompson. I might even lose my job because something might go sideways. But
don't you lose your job if you don't double check?
Maybe so, you would think. But in this day and age, who knows?
Some of them were taking pictures with him. One was taking a picture with him.
But my thing, okay, so this is the way I look at stuff like that in the world today. If anybody's out there listening with like little kids, maybe you should cover up their ears. I'm not gonna say nothing dirty or nothing, but like, if you have the stones to do some of these kinds of things and you're not really scared or worried about the repercussions, you can get away with so much in this world.
Mm-hmm.
And all it is just having the guts to go out
and confidence,
yeah. And if you can go out there and do it, it's like underage drinking. Like one of the first times I went to a bar and got a drink. Boy, man, the first time you're walking up there, you're scared to death,
Mm-hmm.
But after you go up there and then you get it and then you walk away and you're like, this ain't so bad. And then the next time you go, it's a little easier, and so on and so forth. And then
then you're a regular.
Then it's second nature, But like anything else, that first time. But if you got, like I said, the guts to do it, to try to pull it off, and you're willing to take the chance, hey, you might bank out. You might hit the gold mine, if you will, in a manner speaking.
Man, it's wild. So he's been banned from Chase for life. He posted the letter that Chase Center sent him and everything, and eventually he can apply for that to kind of be rescinded, but they also hold the right to uphold it.
Question on that. Okay, so it's Chase Center. So say in 8 or 10 years, the sponsorship changes and it goes back to Oracle or something else. Does that still apply?
I think it does, because if you actually read the letter, there's I mean, you know how those legal letters are, though. Yeah, there could be if you got a good attorney who knows what he's looking at. Maybe if new ownership, not just sponsorship, if new ownership took over the arena, then I'm definitely why not? And it also is one of those things that, I don't know, because he's doing it for likes and clicks, and he has no regrets about it. He says, I guess one of my questions here is, he knew it was wrong going into it, right? There's no question there, but should some of the blame, you know what I mean? Like, if the security guards were good, they would have turned him around, and then he uses his tickets to get into the game.
Yeah, and then he just dressed up like Clay, and he's sitting in the stands, and people are like, "Oh, look at that guy dressed like Klay Thompson over there."
Exactly.
Pretty cool. And then maybe he gets on the air, like on national telecast for a few seconds, sitting in the stands.
Oh, they showed him. Yeah, they showed him in other games before.
When you do stuff like, I mean, hell, I was on Sunday Night Baseball for like 15 seconds. Dude, I wasn't doing nothing special than wearing my Phillies gear.
But you had the
you had the
Philly
Fanatic hat.
Yeah, you had the Fanatic hat
helps.
on.
It probably helps, but also just being one of or a couple of me and my boy Vince of however many Philly fans. I mean, there was a decent amount of us, but we didn't take over the place because that was the first time they let full capacity in that weekend.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Mother's Day weekend. So, and being a holiday weekend with Mother's Day and that happening, I think there was a little less people that showed up that weekend just because people already had like pre-made plans for Mother's Day and whatnot. It might have been hard to change things up,
And it's Father's Day this weekend, so a big shout out to all the dads out there. Man, I got some bad news just by using my mind today. It's not terrible news. It's not at all, but I was looking at the schedule for the Stanley Cup. I'm like, going through it, and then I'm like, oh, wait, we're going to Atlanta.
Oh, yeah.
For the Freddie Freeman return,
yeah.
June 24th. June 24th, we also, I believe that is game 6 at that point in time. It's if needed, but still.
You might not need it, depending.
Depending. I mean, the Avs could sweep, the Bolts could.
What time's that Braves game?
It will be starting 7 Eastern time,
And that's
whereas
on a Saturday?
It's a Friday.
Oh, Friday. So, if it was a game that day, then it'd definitely be later on.
But
if it was a weekend day, it might be like
the hockey game will be starting at 8 Eastern.
Right. But
So,
I'm saying if it was like a Saturday, you might get they play the hockey game at 3 or something earlier. That'd be kind of cool. But yeah, it doesn't sound like that's going to happen.
it is what it is. I'll have old trusty dusty phone with me, and I'll be watching the game.
Yeah.
Good thing I'm not sitting down down in the lower rows. I'm sitting out there. I believe in the home run porch left field side of things, though.
Okay.
So probably underneath the Hank Aaron Terrace, underneath that one, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So be in the shade, because we're bringing little Liam with us, which is my fiance's friend's son,
Definitely
and it's going to be his
shade.
first game, man.
It's gonna be hot.
I'm so excited to take Liam. All right, we got to get to a break. It's going to be Chandler per minute when we get back. Y'all stick with us.
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida is the Panhandle's destination for the Atlanta Braves.
Got him, swinging strike 3.
Ozzie Albies, Austin Riley, Ronald Acuna Jr. and the Braves are back.
Unbelievable.
And hungry for more. Listen to the world champion Atlanta Braves on a world champion radio station.
Rosario knocked the living daylights out of it.
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Weather forecast for this afternoon: spotty showers and thunderstorms, partly sunny skies near 88, and the feel light temperature 100. Southwest wind 10 to 15, water temperature in the Gulf 84. Chance of a shower or thunderstorm tonight, mid to upper 70s. Spotty showers and thunderstorms Wednesday and Thursday. This weather forecast has been brought to you by KHS and Associates, your source for affordable health insurance. For 104.3 and 102.1 ESPN Northwest Florida, I'm meteorologist Tim Root.
Los Rancheros has been doing it right for 20 years. Los Rancheros brings a top-shelf dining experience to you with the opening of their beautiful new building. Watch all college and pro games on Los Rancheros' 14 large-screen TVs with great drink specials daily from 2 to 5 and during all the games. Los Rancheros, the place for live sports and great food on 23rd Street between Jenks and Harrison.
Reliable Copy Products is proud to be the exclusive dealer in Northwest Florida for Kyocera office equipment. Reliable Copy Products has been committed to providing professional, personalized service for the last 35 years. They understand that the right equipment does not always fall within today's budget requirements, so they offer several options for the equipment you need today for the growth you expect tomorrow. Call James Smothers at 784-6601. 784-6601. Reliable Copy Products on Harrison Avenue, just north of Bay High School.
Dr. Chad Mitchell, orthopedic surgeon, specializing in sports medicine and joint replacement of the knee, shoulder, and hip. He serves our local athletes and our community. Southern Orthopedic Specialist has been the leader in orthopedic care for over 20 years. New patients are welcome. Call 850-769-KNEE to schedule an appointment. More about Dr. Mitchell and Southern Orthopedic Specialist is available on their website, southernorthopedic.com. Southern Orthopedic, getting you back in the game.
Live from the Rib Crib studio. We are live and local. From Camp Helen State Park to the historic Martin Theater.
Definitely time to let our hair down and have some fun.
It's the Afternoon Underdogs. 104.3 ESPN Northwest
What's going on, guys? It's the Afternoon Underdogs. I'm David Hayes along with Caveman Rick. We're in the Rib Crib radio room, and you're listening to 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida. Proud to have with us on the line Chandler Permenter, who covers Ole Miss and Southern Miss for 24/7 College World Series. Follow them on Twitter at 247CWS. Chandler, what's going on, bud?
Hey, David, thanks for having me on, man.
Oh, no doubt about it. Can't wait to talk to you about this next one right here. The Volunteers losing to the Irish of Notre Dame. Give me your thoughts and takeaways from that series.
I mean, obviously nobody thought that, any Tennessee out until at least close to the end of the CWS. But, when, last year having the number one overall seed, who are all year long in Arkansas, was the best team in college baseball, for them to lose at home in their super regional was insane. The number one overall seed hardly ever wins the whole thing, but they don't usually lose at home in their own super. And so for that to happen back-to-back years, that's wild. I don't think anybody saw it coming, especially with a team like Tennessee that was that good this year.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And actually, if you take it, we missed 2020, but 2019, who was it UCLA maybe that was a number one seed, but they were bounced before the College World Series as well. So yeah, that was crazy. Now, quick question on the uniforms of Notre Dame. Caveman,
they were like purple.
I thought they were just blue and gold.
No, they had purple on them, and then they had some kind of like monogramming around the edges of the sleeves. I didn't know if it had something to do with.
They looked like pajamas. They were pretty bad.
Yeah, seriously. And I didn't know if it or almost something like I don't want to say like a magician would wear. It's just something something really crazy, or like a wizard. And yeah, I didn't know if it had something to do with being a Catholic school because I didn't think there's any religious holidays or anything big going on where that purple color, maybe Easter or something might be going down. So I just didn't know if there was a reason for it.
New to me too, but if you keep winning, it's kind of like with Ole Miss at the end of the regular season wearing those camo hats. If you're winning wearing it,
yeah, no
don't
doubt.
quit wearing it.
Right on.
So, I think they're awful. I think the gold helmets they're some of the worst helmets I've ever seen. I hate them, but I can't fault somebody for doing something if it works. College baseball is, in baseball period, just a very superstitious sport, and if it works, don't quit.
I hear that.
Well, Tennessee athletics, man, whenever Peyton Manning is around, Mr. Omaha himself, he was there for this series, and it doesn't look like, or the Volunteers will not be going to Omaha. What is the deal when Peyton Manning is in attendance for a Volunteer athletic event? They just don't seem to do as well.
Well, and a lot of that has to do with Peyton's not going to show up. It's not a big game, and it's a big game normally if it's either a big rival or has some kind of national importance, and those are going to be the games where you're battle tested the most. And a lot of times that's where pipes break under pressure, and it just kind of feels like it happens to be the times that he's there is normally when they're going to play some of their hardest games. And, it's unfortunate because, one of the biggest solo names in your school's history, and he can't get to watch you guys win when he's there.
Let's talk about a guy from Ole Miss and Tim Elko. And how long did he need to come back from an ACL tear?
It was like 25 days. The guy tore his ACL, and then literally like 3 weeks later, the guy's back. You start seeing him walking around the ball field and taking BP, and then you're thinking, okay, that's a cool story. He'll be back better next year. Then all of a sudden, like I said, you're like 3.5 weeks in, and he's in the lineup, and you're like, or he starts getting pinch hit spots, and you're like,
crazy.
Wait, really? And then he's hitting home runs on these pinch hit appearances, and I guess that's all he really can do. If he gets a base hit, it's risky, even if it's in the outfield. But it was incredible. It's got to be one of your favorite stories, in the last couple of years. The guy, he's an outstanding teammate. He's a great ball player, and he's just hard to root against. He's just a really cool kid.
Well, what do you think that does for the Rebels, though, just having a guy like that be just in the dugout in general and knowing at any time, hey, his bat can come off the bench or his bat is right there in the lineup for us to utilize? And does that, fill the Rebels with confidence?
Oh, no doubt it does. And, the Rebels have, really 1 through 9, some really great hitters. And like when Kevin Graham was out early in the season, that's when Ole Miss really started their slump whenever they played Tennessee. You miss one of those guys, and it feels like you're missing a key component. But, Tim Elko's just been that guy. He's so uplifting to all the players, and he's such a good guy to root for. I heard a story over the weekend whenever, after the dog pile in Hattiesburg, he told everybody, hey, I know y'all want to go to the dugout and celebrate, but let's line up and shake these guys' hands. He's just, when they call him the captain, it's a lot more than just a C on the chest and a name for him. He takes it very serious, and he leads those guys. He's a very, very important cog, and I think he's a lot of the reason him being healthy is a lot of the reason they got over the hump this year and made it back to the College World Series.
Well, right on, Chandler. Caveman Rick here, 104.3 Northwest Florida. I was talking to Chandler Permenter, College World Series. Speaking of dog piles just a few moments ago, who had the best dog pile so far?
It's hard to say that anybody had a bad one because it's always so much fun to watch. These are a bunch of 18 to 20, 21, 22-year-old kids that are, having the time of their lives. This is the best moment of their life so far for most of these kids. But for me, it's hard to say it wasn't Notre Dame. You could tell they were having so much fun, and to go in and beat a team that just felt like they couldn't be beat. I think they had like 6 losses all year going into the Super. They were incredible. It was a really good, feel-good moment, and they looked like they were having a ton of fun. So I have to give it to Notre Dame. They looked like they really enjoyed it.
32 appearances, no tickets have been punched to the College World Series. Were you surprised Eastern Carolina gave up that series to Texas, especially what were they up 7-2 in the second game? I believe it was just having the Longhorns on the brink of elimination.
Yeah, at that point, you really felt like it was over. When you're down 5, especially against a team that can hit the ball as well as ECU can, it just really it demoralizes the team. And outside looking in, you're just like, well, it was a good season for Texas, but that's about it. And I even told a guy at work, a big Texas fan that I work with, on Friday after ECU won the first game, I was like, man, I just don't think Texas has the bullpen to come back. And for them to come back and pull that off was really impressive. And I had to eat crow a little bit on Monday. But, yeah, you feel bad for ECU. They're such a storied program, and they're so good at baseball. And just to never make it, that's incredible because, you look at other teams that have 5 or 6 appearances, and that doesn't feel like a lot for some teams. Like Ole Miss, this is their 6th appearance, and that doesn't feel like a lot given their success. But to have 32 appearances and no trips is really incredible. It's a really crazy story.
So the NCAA is not going to be letting Zach Collier sing the national anthem because he did the horns down sign at the Women's College World Series. He's an alumni of Texas A&M. You can give me your thoughts on this as well, but first, just is doing a hand sign like the horns down or whatever, do you find that to be offensive?
I think that's weak.
No, I think it's goofy. I think it's a really clown move from the NCAA. really no fan base in the country gets upset over a hand sign, but the University of Texas. I mean, they've always had an issue with people doing that. I mean, and that's why people do it. It's because you get offended by it. I mean, if you quit worrying about it, people wouldn't do it anymore. And no, it's soft. I mean, and to do it over, I've heard they did it over email. He told him he couldn't perform the national anthem over email. That's, I mean, the whole thing reeks of being an umpire. I mean, you know, we give umpires a lot of crap about trying to take the game away from the kids, make it about themselves, and it just feels like that's what the NCAA is doing. It's making it out about the kids. It's making how can we get some publicity from this? That's just what it feels like to me.
That's a great take, Chandler. Which team has surprised you the most to get to this point that they're in?
You know, I mean, when you get to that field of 64, there's really 40 or 50, maybe 60 teams that you just really feel like have a good chance to go in there and make it to the top 8. So you hate to be surprised by any of them, but Auburn, man, I mean, to go into Corvallis and take 2 or 3 against one of the best pitching staffs in the country and to pitch the way they did against one of the best lineups in the country, they played some really gritty baseball, and hats off to them. I think I had Oregon State doing really well in Omaha, so I was looking ahead for them, and I wasn't prepared for them to go home last night, or maybe the night before last. I'm kind of losing track of my days, but yeah, Auburn surprised me the most this weekend.
Absolutely. We're talking with Chandler Permenter. He covers Ole Miss and Southern Miss for 247CWS. Follow them on Twitter at 247CWS. Rank the final 8 teams for us here in the College World Series.
This one was really tough for me looking back at it because, I mean, honestly, when you get to the last 8, you almost want to rank them by the day. I mean, you look at who's starting pitcher matches up with who and everything else. I mean, Texas A&M, they're kind of getting, hated on a little bit. Barstool has them as the underdogs to win this, and I actually have them as the number 1 team. I mean, they're not just flashy. They're not just going to impress you in every single way, shape, and form, but they seem to always find a way to win. I mean, when they went and played Ole Miss, to win 2 of those games, and again, not really in flashy form, but just to go and pull it off. I mean, they've just been kind of impressive. Stanford, they're probably the odds-on favorite to win it all right now, but I got them at 2. They're a really good ball club. Again, 1 through 9, you got to be able to pitch to them, and they just they've been really impressive. I'm going to give Auburn the 3 spot. I know I said they were probably the most surprising team, but just to go in there and handle Oregon State the way they did, I got to put a little bit of respect on their name. They could really surprise anything they play this year or for the rest of the year. And then behind them at 4, I'm going to say Ole Miss. I mean, obviously I want to put them at number 1, but that just doesn't feel right now. I mean, they've got a really good number 1, number 2 pitcher. But I think it'll be a really interesting matchup, game 1 against Auburn. I mean, those teams match up really, really well. They had some really close games in the regular season, so that'll be a lot of fun to watch. Then I gave the next 9, number 5, to Arkansas. Arkansas is such a dark horse. They are the mantra of get hot at the right time. I mean, they were supposed to be really good preseason. They kind of faltered. They got really hot at the animated end. So I have Arkansas at 5. 6, I had Texas. I mean, Ivan Melendez alone, I mean, you feel like he's probably the 6th best team in the country. I mean, that guy is a freak. So, I mean, Texas is really, really good. And it feels like being 3rd to last shouldn't be a knock to anybody, but then Notre Dame, I think I'm going to give them. I wanted to give them 8 just because of their uniforms, but that didn't feel fair. So I gave them 7. They're also obviously a really good ball club to beat Tennessee, and again, being next to last is not a knock. I mean, you're still top 8. You're still one of the best teams in the country. But that left OU. It didn't feel like they were the worst team in Omaha. It just felt like they were the 8th best team in Omaha. It was so hard to pick these, but that's probably my rankings, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's completely wrong because any one of these teams could win the whole thing.
Oh, that's why we play the game, man. That's the beauty of it. I know we're kind of knocking the uniforms for Notre Dame. What about the Golden Dome helmets, though? Are you a fan of those? Because that's what they wear in football. I'm not a huge fan of when they got those Golden Dome helmets on for baseball, anyways.
No, I hate them. I hope they're the first team out because they're so bad. I hate looking at them. And if I end up getting to go to Omaha this year, I don't want to have to look at them, especially in the sunlight there in Nebraska. That's a harsh sun, and it's a lot. I'm a little bit partial, though, because State likes to wear gold helmets in the Egg Bowl, and to me, those uniforms are gaudy and awful. So I guess gold in the uniform just kind of sets me off anyway. So, no, I hate the gold helmet.
And like you were saying, though, with that sun, that's my question I was going to ask. Do you think that might somehow give him somewhat of an advantage because of, the reflectivity of those helmets, say? Either somebody trying to make a throw or make a catch, or the pitcher, pitching a ball and gets that gleam in the eye, and all of a sudden stuff goes awry.
I'd say probably not. I mean, I could definitely see, especially certain fan bases and certain, maybe even coaching staffs and teams trying to use that as an excuse. I mean, and I'm not saying it couldn't happen, but I just feel like it's a very unlikely scenario. And it does make you wonder, though, do they have to keep spare helmets, on lock just in case? Because, I mean, you had to get disqualified because you don't have any more helmets.
Oh, man, that would be tough. Real quick, Chandler, give me your final two teams playing for it all, but let's not get into a winner so we can have you back on later this week and talk a little bit more about these matchups.
Yeah, so I think I had to go with Texas A&M and Stanford. I mean, those two teams, they just find a way to win. All season long, it's kind of been their mantra. Texas A&M hasn't been super flashy, like I said, but they just find a way, and for them to lose 2 times in every round of Omaha just seems unlikely to me. And Stanford has been so dominant, and I think they're going to really shine on the biggest stage. I think that's what their MO is going to be. I think they're just going to be that team that comes in the clutch and does really well. So maybe this is a little bit of me trying to reverse psychology on Miss into the finals. If I don't mention it, maybe it'll happen. But Texas A&M and Stanford, I think that's who I'm going to have there in the end.
Great stuff as always, Chandler. Look forward to chatting with you later on in the week to get some thoughts on the matchups that we're going to be looking at this weekend.
Great, man. Sounds great.
Yes, sir. That's Chandler Permenter. Make sure that you're following him on Twitter as well, and then go to @247CWS. Follow that account, 24/7 College World Series. You're going to need it for the rest of this week for the off season, and then heading into college baseball season next year. Great stuff, and we appreciate Chandler around here. We'll be right back, man. It's going to be time to defend our stance.
Weather in Northwest Florida can change on a dime.
Gale force winds bombarded with heavy rain.
That's why 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida has the most up-to-date forecast on the Gulf Coast. Hi, this is staff meteorologist Tim Root. With over 40 years of experience, I know just how fast we can go from sun and fun to a serious situation. For the most accurate and detailed weather when it matters, rely on 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
I'm Matt Glover with Aero Pest Service, and we are your family-owned and operated pest control company in Bay County since 1977. Now's the time to have us supply our long-lasting custom blend fertilizer that is guaranteed to be the answer your lawn needs in order to stay green and beautiful all summer long. Give us a call today at Aero Pest Service, 850-874-1900. 850-874-1900.
Hi, I'm Kevin Shady with KHS & Associates. We represent private insurance providers using multiple nationwide PPO networks for pre-negotiated discounted rates and no co-pays, no co-insurance, and no deductibles. If you're interested in a quote, give us a call or text 502-386-1128 and provide us your zip code and the ages and gender of those to include. Call or text us at 502-386-1128. That's 502-386-1128.
Hey there, I'm Swampy Jack. I've traveled the world for decades, and now I've brought some of my most exciting adventures to Panama City Beach. Brave perilous heights of the Kraken Tower Swing as you soar above the beach. The whole family will have fun playing my new mini golf course, which recreates my expedition to the ruins of Angkor Wat. Skip the restaurant lines and enjoy a meal at Swampy's Cantina, and enjoy a beer while you listen to laughter bubbling from the spin coaster. Your adventure awaits at Swampy Jack's Wango Adventure.
Earthworks of Northwest Florida knows it's a perfect time for you to update your home. Whether it's routine touch-ups or a new look, Earthworks has just what you need. Sand, stone, mulch, and gravel, pickup or delivery. Visit earthworks.com and request a quote. Discover your dream landscape with Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Love the land you live on. Earthworks of Northwest Florida, 2005 Industrial Drive.
Damsel in Defense presents Defend Your Stance. Got an opinion? Time to defend it. It's the Afternoon Underdogs on 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
We are live. This is Defend Your Stance. It's brought to you by Michelle Nowalinski, Caveman Rick, Emerald Coast Damsel, Independent Damsel Pro for Damsel in Defense. We're off this week.
That's correct.
I bet Michelle is excited about that because then the next week,
we're going to be over in Pensacola.
Yeah, man, excited about that. Did you guys have a good show?
Oh, yeah, good show this weekend. Lots of people, made some good money. Like usual, just met some good people too. Yeah, just a good show, just in general, it's getting hot outside, people are probably wanting to find a place that, because they got a lot of that, like, on the inside areas, even though it's, like, at fairgrounds, like here, so you can go inside, it's, like, AC controlled, temperature, so get out of the heat, check out some guns and personal protection devices, and have a good day.
Definitely need the air condition, at least in this heat advisory that we're dealing with right now. I was excited to find it because, this was not necessarily the show plan for the day. Appreciate K-Man Rick coming in today, but when I found out that you were coming in, I had already had this question, so we're going to lead off with this one. LeBron touched the Stanley Cup.
Yep.
You saw that?
I heard about it. I didn't see a video or not.
So LeBron touched the cup. Do you think that maybe he's I don't want to say continue because he had a great season individually last year, but will his bad luck continue? Will he have bad luck for touching the cup without winning it?
I would hope so. I don't know how it affects non-hockey players.
Yeah,
because
that's
the
true.
tradition in hockey is you're not supposed to touch it with your bare hands unless you've won the Stanley Cup as a player. Okay, I know there's some fans and whatever out there, I'm sure, that have done it, because they're not playing, they're never going to have the opportunity. But as an NHL player, that's basically what you want to do: is not put your fingers on it, not put your hands on it. When you touch it, it's because you just earned the damn thing. You've earned the right to do it, and now it's your honor, your pleasure, if you will, however you want to take it. But since he's not a hockey player, I don't know. I mean, like I said, he has won championships. We have seen him do a lot of great things in his career. I'm not the biggest LeBron fan. In fact, I kind of don't dig the way he carries himself a lot of times and the way he does stuff. So I would hope that maybe if there is a little bad luck there, maybe it does rub off on him.
I was very surprised to see him do that just because, I mean, like if it was me walking up to the Stanley Cup, the security guard ain't even going to let me get that close to think about touching that thing. And if I were to be in the position where, it was one of the, I'm pretty sure they would make you wear a glove anyways to touch it.
Well, no, because like you have those moments when somebody does win the cup and then they have the day with the cup.
Yeah.
So it goes all around the country.
So I need to get friends
It goes all around the world.
Yeah.
So you have somebody that, say you knew a hockey player that won the Stanley Cup, okay?
Yeah.
And you were at his gathering that he had with his friends and family members or whatever. Some people parade it through their hometowns and such, and you were at that shindig, that gathering. You could touch it with your bare hands. Hell, you might be able to drink a beer out of it if you were lucky enough. I might do that because, hey, I'm not a hockey player, and just to walk around and say, hey, I drank a beer out of Lord Stanley's cup, that'd be pretty badass to say.
Dude, that would be pretty daggum cool to do. Just a little sip, man. I don't even need a whole 12 out.
In my mind, if that's going to deter my Philadelphia Flyers, say, from winning the Stanley Cup, then you better believe I ain't touching that sucker.
What if it's after the Flyers win the cup?
Oh, yeah.
What if they have like a fan day for the cup?
Maybe afterwards I might, be tempted to do that. Like I said, I'm not a hockey player. I am kind of superstitious, though, when it comes to certain things, So I want to do anything I can to help my team, and I don't want to do anything that might hurt them.
Yeah. Well, man, but to LeBron's athleticism still, I was watching a video that he posted probably 5-6 days ago now of him just shooting in the yard with his two sons, and he's still, I mean, I know he's just shooting around, but dude is still an athletic beast, man. And we'll see what happens, man. There's been some murmurs that he's not really committed to the Lakers at this point in time. So we'll have to see how that all plays out. But speaking of LeBron James, only a couple minutes left here. How do you fix flopping in the NBA? Do we need to start handing out technicals or flagrants or maybe an embellishment foul?
Yes. Hockey has it. If you take a dive, if you like embellish, a hit or whatever to try to get the call, they can call the initial call that hits you by that player, the opposing player, and they can even call you for the dive at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
or they can just elect to not call the dive and just, do the penalty or, whatever. But in basketball, if you want to stop that, you're going to have to do something to deter it. If you don't have a penalty to deter this, it's going to continue happening. So you, instead of like giving them a warning or something, you might have to just tee them up, and if it gets bad enough and like do something where like, do it 2 times in one game, then you get tossed.
Yeah.
First time it's kind of like, okay, oopsie. Second time, see you later, buddy.
Well, how many times could you get an embellishment call in the NHL before you get tossed? I mean,
I don't think there's a limit.
Yeah.
But I mean, every time it happens, you're gonna, hurt your team. They're down 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And that could be big time. So like, if you just get a small penalty where it's just an infraction where the other team gets a couple of free throws or something, that's not that big deal in basketball.
That's a good point, man. It would maybe we'll come back to this after we get done talking with Kevin Pelton coming up next.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
Greeny on ESPN Radio. Who's next? Who's next?
You forgot my name, didn't you?
I did. Well, what did you say it was again?
It's Cam, and up next is Cam.
Cam Greeny. They just put on the screen. Cam Greeny.
Add the comma, for God's sake.
That's pretty good. Yeah, there should be a comma, Lorenzo, between the Cam and the Greeny. Go ahead, Cam. Who's next?
Greeny, weekdays 2 to 4, ESPN Northwest Florida.
Weather forecast for this afternoon: spotty showers and thunderstorms, partly sunny skies near 88, and the feel like temperature 100. Southwest wind 10 to 15, water temperature in the Gulf 84. Chance of a shower or thunderstorm tonight, mid to upper 70s. Spotty showers and thunderstorms Wednesday and Thursday. This weather forecast has been brought to you by Earthworks of Northwest Florida. For 104.3 and 102.1 ESPN Northwest Florida, I'm meteorologist Tim Root.
Earthworks of Northwest Florida knows it's a perfect time for you to update your home. Whether it's routine touch-ups or a new look, Earthworks has just what you need. Sand, stone, mulch, and gravel, pickup or delivery. Visit earthworks.com and request a quote. Discover your dream landscape with Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Love the land you live on. Earthworks of Northwest Florida, 2005 Industrial Drive.
We know that juicy, cheesy, grilled to perfection burger sounds amazing, but it does sound like something is missing. Pepsi, baby! The yin to this burger's yang. Burgers and Pepsi go together like burgers and Pepsi. This perfect blending of flavors makes every bite of lettuce, every sesame seed on the bun, and every sip of that crisp, refreshing, ice-cold cola a journey to Foodtopia. Burgers, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
Is that the sound of an ooey gooey, cheesy, crunchy slice of P-I-Z-Z-A? Obviously. But as good as that sounds, we think it can get even better. Oh yeah, that's the sound of a freshly opened fizz-filled Pepsi. The only thing that can take this flavor medley of crunchy dough, mouth-watering cheese, and savory sauce to the next level. How about another bite? Pepsi and pizza sound like a match made in heaven and taste even better. Pizza, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
Get game. WGSX Lynn Haven, WTOT, W271DM Mariana, Paulette, SC, ESPN Northwest Florida.
Transmission starts in 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting from the Rib Crib Radio Room. The Afternoon Underdogs are taking your calls live. 850-215-6290. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
I
6 o'clock coverage starts, 6:05 for the first pitch. Max Fried on the bump for the Atlanta Braves tonight. Make sure that you're tuned in and stick with us here on 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida. We've got Kevin Pelton on the line, who is an NBA writer for ESPN. He's also the co-host of the Pelton Cast. Kevin, how's it going, my friend?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Hey, no doubt about it. Thank you for giving us some of your time this afternoon. What have you thought of the officiating in this series? Whenever I'm scanning through Twitter, reading articles, the biggest thing that stands out is the people complaining about the officiating. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, I think that's just inevitable with basketball, particularly in the NBA in 2022. There's just so much awareness from players on both sides of how to try to manipulate the rules and take advantage of the officiating that someone is always going to be succeeding in that, and someone's always going to be failing in that. And there was definitely some missed calls. I don't think last night's Game 5 was the best officiated game you've seen in this series. As we work towards the back end of this finals, I think we're going to get the highest rated crews for Game 6 and Game 7. So, hopefully a greater degree of consistency, but that's not going to stop people from complaining.
What do you think of the playoffs that Al Horford is having for the Celtics?
It's truly incredible when you look back to where he was, 2 years ago when he got traded by Philadelphia, salaried them to Oklahoma City, exiled to the Thunder for a year, plays half a season basically before the Thunder decide to just shut him down and play their young guys instead. And, then goes to Boston, and you wonder how much he has left in the tank at that point. And lo and behold, he's played as well in this postseason as he ever had throughout his entire career, which is, not quite Hall of Fame level, but kind of that notch below of someone who's just consistently been a really elite role player in the league because of the skills that are still making him so special, stretching the floor from the 4 and the 5 positions, his ability to switch defensively. And in this finals, he's been a key bellwether for the Celtics. He's played really well when they've won in Games 1 and Game 3 and has not been that same player in their losses.
Kevin, looking at your Twitter, you used numbers to learn more about the game. What numbers are you looking at that are defining this series for you?
It's funny because I think it's less about the advanced stats in this one. My ESPN colleague Brian Windhorst has been talking on his podcast, The Hoop Collective, about the condition gold or condition green based on a couple of factors. Number one, the assists for Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, Tatum in particular. And then number two, the turnovers for the Celtics, where consistently throughout this postseason, any time that they've been above 15 turnovers in a game, they've lost. And when they've managed to stay below that mark, they've typically always won. So that's been a big one worth watching, I think, even though it's not particularly complicated.
That is a great one.
Yeah, great answer. Caveman Rick, great to talk to you, Kevin. Do you think it's a bad sign for the Celtics that in Game 6, Steph Curry went 0 from 6 from behind the arc in Game 5 and what may be coming down the road once he obviously fixes this?
Yes and no. I mean, I think some of that was the fact that the Celtics were putting a greater degree of focus on him coming off that 43-point performance in Game 4. And that opened some things up for the other Warriors, particularly early in the game where, you saw they were continually getting to the rim. Draymond Green was steady a lot up in a way that he hasn't been in this series. I mean, it's interesting because to go back to that point before, the Warriors' offense, despite Steph's huge games and good games, and then that game where he didn't shoot the ball well and everything else has kind of fluctuated for the Warriors, their offense has pretty much been the same every game. And what's really changed in this series is whether the Celtics can get enough shots up and take care of the ball, or whether they're beating themselves in turnovers as they did again last night.
Is there last night the Celtics, they only put up 10 points from the bench, right? Is there a lack of depth on the bench for the Celtics, or is it not clicking?
I think that was a not clicking factor. I mean, we've seen Derek White and Grant Williams at various points in this playoffs, even Peyton Pritchard play a huge role for the Celtics. I mean, one thing you wonder about is whether guys have started to wear down a little bit. They've had such a long, intense playoff run going 7 games back-to-back rounds before this one, now at least 6 in the finals. But, I think that was kind of more an aberration than it was necessarily an indication of lack of depth for them.
And to piggyback off of that, would you say it'd be like the youth or just the lack of not having a superstar on Boston's team, being that they're down 3-2 going into Game 6?
I think it's probably more of an experience factor. It is interesting that they've not generally been very good in late close situations throughout this season. Even as well as they played in the second half of the season, it was really a string of blowouts. They won some close games against Brooklyn in the first round, and then I think you could certainly throw Game 6 against Milwaukee when they won that one on the road into the close game category. But that is, even when they won Game 7 in Miami in a close game, it was because of the fact that their offense, stalled out down the stretch. So that's something we've seen a lot. Like Jason Tatum isn't quite at that inner superstar level, but he's not far away from it. So it's not, I think, a lack of talent. I think it is probably more the inexperience in some of these biggest moments, the biggest stages.
You're listening to 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida. We're talking with Kevin Pelton, NBA writer for ESPN. What would you like to see from Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in Game 6?
I think it's a simple recipe. It's, attack the basket under control, take the kick-out pass when it's there instead of trying to force things. For Tatum a lot in this series, he's gotten in trouble when he's tried to play for the foul, play for contact in the paint instead of just looking to finish. That's something that Jeff Van Gundy has been harping on in the broadcast regularly. For Jaylen Brown, it's not driving into crowds and playing in traffic, because that's where he tends to get stripped and come up with a lot of those turnovers that have plagued the Celtics. They do those things. The Celtics offense can be very difficult to stop.
You were a statistical consultant for the Indiana Pacers from 2010 to 2012, which happens to be my favorite team. Who would you like to see the Pacers draft this year?
Let's see, number 6. I think that an interesting option for them it would be, Keegan Murray. If he somehow falls to that point, would be awesome to keep him in the Midwest and give them that power forward now that they've kind of committed to Miles Turner as the big man after trading DeMontis Sabonis. Certainly, need some help defensively. I think after the way they played in the second half of last season, Miles Turner's absence was a big part of it, so he'll help. But, Murray was active in terms of block and steal rates. If not him, certainly they're going to have to look at Jaden Ivey if he somehow slips to 6 or Shadon Sharp. I also like A.J. Griffin out of Duke. He's kind of getting mocked lower right now, but the small forward position, I think, also a bit of a need. They've got Chris Duarte and Buddy Hield there, but those guys are probably more naturally 2s than they are 3s.
And if the NBA were to, say, expand or move a franchise, would you say it would be better for that franchise to be in Vegas or for them to have a team again, say, in Seattle?
Well, I'm calling from Seattle, so I'm pretty biased on that point towards Seattle. But look, this is a market that was, great for the NBA for a long period of time, and it was just kind of an unwillingness from the taxpayers here to fund another arena after doing so at T-Mobile Park for the Mariners and Lumen Field for the Seahawks. Now that we've got a privately financed arena where the Kraken are playing as an expansion team, they've enjoyed tremendous support here. All the tickets sold out on 3-year deals, their season tickets before the first game, and there wasn't really that culture of hockey here, whereas there's so many people my age that grew up on the Peyton Kemp Sonics that are longing to kind of share that with the next generation. So the minute the Sonics came back here, they would immediately want to be one of the best supported teams in the league, in my opinion.
Man, I love the Supersonics jerseys, the uniform combinations that they had at their disposal. Did you like more of the green and yellow color concept, or that green, yellow, and kind of orangish mix to it?
It's funny because their best run, the '96 finals, came in that those jerseys that did add the orange and red to the mix. But the green and gold to me is always what I associate with the Sonics, and I think you definitely want to stick to that if and when the team comes back.
I love it, man. Will Darvin Ham help the Lakers get back to the playoffs, and will we see LeBron in a Lakers uniform next year?
I'd be very surprised if we didn't see LeBron in the Lakers uniform. Even if he's not willing to commit to an extension beyond this season, still at this point, you're not really going to trade him if you're the Lakers unless he demands out, and I don't think that's going to happen. So, I think he'll be there. Darvin Ham, I think it gives him an adult in the room in terms of someone who comes in with credibility from his playing career. Very successful assistant coach working under Mike Budenholzer in Milwaukee for many years. We've seen Mike Budenholzer assistant and Taylor Jenkins go on to a lot of success in recent years in Memphis. So I love the pick, the hire, but it's ultimately not about the coach. I don't think Frank Vogel was the problem there. It's about the roster, and they need to find a way this offseason to create a little more depth. And find a way to minimize their reliance on Russell Westbrook. That's going to be the bigger issue than whoever the coach is.
We appreciate your time and calling all the way from Seattle. Only got one left for you, and then we'll let you get back to it. Give me your upside on Chet Holmgren.
Yeah, I watched Chet Holmgren play 3 times in person here in Seattle against Alabama in the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament, including when he matched up against Jalen Duren from Memphis, who's also likely to be a lottery pick in this year's draft. I think people, can get too fixated on his skinny frame. Like he's not a soft player. He, is willing to take contact. Certainly does need to bulk up a little bit. But the upside is, this is a guy who is 7'1", 7'2", shoots the three, high percentage finisher at the rim, and defensively is quite versatile. Obviously a terrific shot blocker with that length, but also someone I think has pretty good feet for his size. Is you see in the modern playoffs the way that centers who can't defend on the perimeter get played off the court. I don't think that's going to be Chet Holmgren. I'm not even sure that he's going to be a center. I think you might start him at power forward depending on what the rest of your roster looks like. But I think that kind of versatility. I don't know if he's ever going to be a 20-point scorer in the NBA, but do a lot of the things, kind of an Al Horford plus in some ways.
Man, Kevin, thanks so much for the insight today. It was a lot of fun chatting with you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Y'all go follow his podcast. Go listen to his podcast. He's the co-host of the Pelton Cast. You can find that on Twitter at Pelton Cast. He's also an NBA writer for ESPN. Definitely make sure to check out his articles that he puts up for us, man. Those guys put in so much work, and I'm so appreciative of it because it makes my job a little bit easier, not only coming on and doing the show, but me able to learn from their perspective, and they're a lot closer to the game than what I am. We're going to go ahead and take a quick time out. We'll be back in about 2.5 minutes, man. We'll be talking NHL Stanley Cup Final.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
Talking about these stories and more on my new show, This Just In, 2 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. You've heard about it, right, Keith?
Yes, I watched it. What's the name of the show?
This Just In.
Got it. Weekdays, 2 to 3, handsome guy, Max Kellerman.
That's exactly what we were thinking about that as the title, as a matter of fact.
Keyshawn, J. Will, and Max. Weekday mornings 5 to 7 on 104.3 ESPN, Northwest Florida.
Weather forecast for this afternoon: spotty showers and thunderstorms, partly sunny skies near 88, and the feel light temperature 100. Southwest wind 10 to 15, water temperature in the Gulf 84. Chance of a shower or thunderstorm tonight, mid to upper 70s. Spotty showers and thunderstorms Wednesday and Thursday. This weather forecast has been brought to you by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. For 104.3 and 102.1 ESPN Northwest Florida, I'm meteorologist Tim Root.
That boot store reminds you, a special day is coming up for a special guy. Some call him father. Around these parts, it's usually daddy. And when he's around, there's a feeling of safety and security. This Father's Day, that boot store has the perfect Western outfit for that special guy. A gift card works great too. That boot store, next to Billboard Kia on 15th Street. Open 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Tuesday through Thursday. 9 a.m. to 5:30 on Friday and Saturday. Remember Joe's motto, keep your Heavenly Father first in your life every day.
Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle, this is Tim.
Do y'all sell bait?
Yes, we seasonally stock live shrimp, live bull minnows, live sand fleas, live fiddler crabs, earthworms, night crawlers, crickets. We also stock frozen shrimp, sand fleas, mullets, squid, pre-rigged ballyhoo, bonita, stingray, cigar minnows, Boston mackerel, Spanish mackerel, and a few other miscellaneous baits. It's worth the drive to buy premium locally sourced bait from Bay Breeze Bait and Tackle, located directly off Highway 98 on the west end of Panama City Beach.
The original J. Michael's Restaurant on Thomas Drive, Panama City Beach, serving Bay County and visitors from the U.S., Canada, and around the world since 1976. A little Southern, a little Creole, and a lot of hospitality. Come enjoy J. Michael's seafood platter, red beans and rice, the best gumbo on the beach, and the world-famous spaghetti night on Wednesdays. 3210 Thomas Drive, J. Michael's Restaurant.
Doing what other stations can't. The Afternoon Underdogs is live and local inside the Rib Crib Radio Room. 850-215-6290.
When you have completed dialing, listen for the ringing signal.
104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Welcome back into the Rib Crib Radio Room. You guys are riding with the Afternoon Underdogs, listening to 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida. This is brought to you by Bay Handyman Services. They listen better, they plan better, and of course, they build better. Reach them at their office number, 850-753-5014. They have 24/7 emergency services. Reach them also on their website, bayhandymanservices.com. They hold a 5-star rating, and they'll do anything from hanging pictures to full house remodels. That's Ryan Phillips. He does such a great job with Bay Handyman Services, 850-753-5014. Good stuff there from Kevin Pelton, getting us a little bit closer to catching up on this game. I do think that the Celtics do have a chance here to make a little bit of a comeback, to win Game 6, and at the very least, push it to a Game 7. I wanted to get his thoughts on Klay Thompson and just kind of that resurgence. Draymond Green is not dominating in the point category, but he is dominating in just kind of being that thorn in a team's side. Maybe he gets away with a little bit too much of it, but
that's his job.
That's his job.
He gets paid there to be like an enforcer, if you will, about to talk hockey, protector, if you will, of other players. Kind of a pot stirrer. Get underneath the other team's skin and throw them off their game.
It's always nice to have guys like that on your squad, though.
You need them.
Especially in the world of hockey.
It's role players. You got to have the role players.
You got to have the role players, and that's exactly what Kevin was talking about with the depth of the LA Lakers. And if they want to, build that thing back up, they're going to have to. I mean, I'm not saying that you got to get rid of Russell. I'm not saying that you have to.
I think you should.
I'm neither here nor there on that one.
I don't think he fits in with them.
I would like to see, I don't know. I know a lot of people dislike Russell Wilson and the way that he plays the game.
Russell Westbrook.
I mean, yeah. Russ.
We're not talking
Russell Westbrook. I love the way that Russell Westbrook plays the game, though, with just high tenacity, always going after it.
He's been off his game, though, and he's been chucking the ball up a lot when he just hasn't had it.
Exactly. There is that. There is that side of it. So it would be fun for me to see guys like Carmelo Anthony, Chris Paul, like those guys who we know that they're at their latter days of a player and that don't have a championship. I would like to see them get past the elusive invisible championship, because all of those guys that we're talking about have been extremely close, but have just never got it done. Let's talk about the Stanley Cup final here, though. We've got the Tampa Bay Lightning and the Avalanche, definitely the 1 and 2 team. I would say Colorado Avalanche are the best team in hockey, and the Tampa Bay Lightning are the second best team in hockey. I think that that's easy to say from the regular season.
That's pretty fair.
If you take the last 3 years, even then, Colorado's right there in the conversation as 1 and 2, right? The difference is just not being able to get out of that second round.
Right.
Well, they've done it, and they've done it strongly. Do you think, though, that the lack of losses, they've only had 2 losses. They've went 12 and 2 through 3 series. Could that be a factor, or could it help provide in the sense of they haven't got too beat up in this playoff series?
That's what I was going to say. It's a factor, all right, but it's on the good side of being a factor because they don't have the wore-out legs that the Tampa Bay Lightning are going to have from the long series they've played in. Not to mention, we already talked about, this is the Tampa Bay Lightning going to the 3rd Stanley Cup championship. So if you add up all those games right there, say on an average they played roughly 20 games per playoff year. So now you're up to about 60 extra games. So they played almost 3/4 of a whole extra season in the last 3 years that a lot of other teams haven't. And on top of that, they're one of the older teams in the league. So that's going to add up, and it's going to catch up to you.
Yeah.
Now, Colorado, them only having those 2 losses and not playing a whole lot of games, that's going to help them out. They're going to be full of energy. Not to mention they score about 1.5 goals more a game on average than the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah, there's also a little bit difference in the goalies that they've been going up against, especially in the last 2 series, we can say. But I'm ready for this. And I know that I've said I think it's going to be Bolts in 5 or 6, and I'm really only saying that, well, for a couple of reasons. But one, you look at our last 2 Stanley Cup finals, right? Mm-hmm. Dallas Stars, Montreal Canadiens. Neither one of those teams, one of them, you can make the argument that it was a bubble.
I was going to say, one was in the bubble.
Okay, and that's true, but Dallas Stars, and then Montreal, in normal years, we're not playing Montreal.
Montreal was an admiration making it there last year.
Well, absolutely. They were blessed with a great playoff run. But what I'm saying is, in normal years, they're an Eastern Conference team, so we're not taking on that team anyways.
Yeah, no doubt.
And they were well overmatched last year. The Montreal Canadiens were. Well, now we're in one where the only reason here's my thinking on this, and until I see it, it's yet to be proven. But the majority of the teams that I watched in the Western Conference, and I watched a good bit. I didn't watch all. I watched a good bit of the NHL playoffs in general, as long as the Lightning weren't playing at the same time. Yeah. And there's just not that same tenacity, intensity when it comes to the scrum play, the board play, that stuff. Not saying that Colorado can't match up to that. I just don't think that they've had to this point. But that will be an interesting thing that I'm keeping my eye on is, not special teams as much, but just the off the puck play, the physical play.
Yeah, that's fair. In the Western Conference, there's not as much physical play as there are in the Eastern Conference, and it's kind of cyclical. I think there's been times where the Western Conference has been more physical. It has to do a lot with the teams you're playing against. If there's a lot more Euro type players, because most of the time the Euro players don't like to mix it up because they don't have to. When they play overseas, and that's where they grow up playing, they play on a bigger ice surface, the Olympic ice. It's a bigger
totally
surface,
different game too when they're playing it like that.
Surface like that, there's more open ice, there's more room, so there's not so much of the contact. It's more about speed and finesse than it is about physicality, like it is here in the North American game. So I think that has a lot to do with it too. So if it's skewed in like one conference has got a little bit more of like those overseas type players, then you might see it played a little bit that way.
Well, then you look at what the Avalanche have had to face in a goaltender heading into these first couple of series, or heading into this final. You had Mike Smith last round. Who did they play in round 2? It was St. Louis Blues, and Bennington got hurt. Bennington got hurt early on into that series, so there's that. And then they were playing the Nashville Predators, which, no offense, right? Because still a hockey team in the playoffs, you're the number 1 seed. You earned that right to take on the easiest team at that point in time. But the Predators were dealing with a lot of injuries at that. So that could be one of the biggest differences is you're coming in, now you're taking on Andrei Vasilevsky. That's a far different goalie. It's like taking on Shesterkin at this point in time.
I would say you can probably, I was already mentioning the Avalanche being about a goal and a half better per game than the Tampa Bay Lightning. Andrei Vasilevsky probably takes that goal and a half away, and then you probably are about even at your numbers, I would say, because Frankos is nowhere near the kind of goaltender as Vasilevsky.
So is it going to be Frankos, or is it going to be Kemper?
I haven't heard definitely yet, and I mean, actually, to be honest with you, I haven't even really looked. But how could you not start Frankos with the way he's been playing?
With the way that he played to finish out that series.
Because it's easier to start with him that way, and then you can go back to Kemper if you want to.
Yeah.
It might be a little bit more difficult.
Play the hot hand.
Exactly. If you pull Frankos and then you go with Kemper, and then he doesn't do so great, and then you try to throw Frankos back in, then you might make it even more of a problem for your team. So I would say stay with the hot hand. Don't change it up. Don't do anything different until you have to.
What about Nazem Kadri? Yeah.
I haven't heard if he's going to be playing tomorrow night or not. Actually, that's something else I haven't really looked into in the last couple of days. It would be kind of interesting. I don't think it really matters, though. I mean, he will help out. I mean, he can shoot. He
Saying
can score.
Could play.
Could, so that's still
same way with Braden Point right now.
Game time decision is what it'll probably end up being. But again, his is a thumb. Okay, so that's going to affect gripping the stick. It's going to affect shooting, a lot of different things. So playing with a messed up thumb that he had surgery on, that could be kind of problematic.
Do you think a guy like Braden Point, who's missed the last 2 series for the Tampa Bay Lightning, is that an infusion because there's obviously talent there? We've seen what he's done in the playoffs before, or could it maybe bust up the chemistry of what the Lightning have been doing to this point? You remember, go back to the Dallas Stars, Tampa Bay Lightning Stanley Cup. Stammer did get on the ice, but it was after we kind of had it in our grip. We didn't have the Stanley Cup yet, and he did get a goal. But as soon as he got that goal, he was back on the bench.
Don't force him in. This is going to be reminiscent to me back in '99 when Eric Lindros was out for the Philadelphia Flyers. And during the playoff series, they forced him back in the Eastern Conference Finals, which we ended up losing, okay? And they shouldn't have forced him back in. Sure, it's Eric Lindros. He's a big-name player, an all-star, if you will, and all these great accolades. Personally, I don't like the guy anymore, but that's another story. But
it's a good story, though.
Yeah, it's a very good story if you look into it as to why. But they forced him back in, and we lost that series miserably to the New Jersey Devils, okay? And I think solely because they just inserted him in without trying to ease him in. Braden Point, to that point, I would say you ease the guy into the role. You don't try to force him in game one and let him play 25, 30 minutes. You just want to maybe like the third defensive pairing or something like that. Get him slowly involved in the game, maybe 12 minutes in the first game. Unless he's really excelling and he can really help you out, then maybe you play him a little bit longer and then just see how it goes. And then like you said, with the chemistry, just try to work him back in. The more positive things happen, play him a little bit more. If he has a bit of a setback, then, you bring him back a little bit. That way he's not hurting your team, and you're not going out there all out thinking he's going to, be the savior for you.
Right. No, that's a great point. What kind of a series are you expecting from, the top line especially, but more importantly in Nathan McKinnon for the Colorado Avalanche? I mean, this has been 2016-17 year, what the Avalanche had 34 points, I believe. It was no, 34 points would be way too low. It was like 34 wins or so on the entire season, and then they've built back substantially from then. Last 3 years, looking like one of the best teams in the West. Now they're finding themselves finally in the Stanley Cup final. Nathan McKinnon means how much to these Avalanche?
Oh, he's huge. I mean, the guy has to do his part. He's got to score. He's got to be a leader out there. But it's not just him. You got guys like, Cale Makar need to do their thing. Gabriel Ladeskong. Like I said, Kadri, if he comes back. They got the guns, and they can score. We already know this. And they just have to keep it rolling. Like I said, don't change anything. Both teams, man. You guys have been clicking. Everything's been going right. Nothing really has been going bad. There's really nothing that you could say about both or either team that you could say, like, man, that's a little bit menacing.
How'd they get there?
Yeah. Or, like, you're not going into the Stanley Cup final thinking, like, man, Tampa Bay's power play really hasn't been all that great, and they really need to step that up. Or, like, on the opposite end, say something about, like, the Avalanche having a bad penalty kill that need to fix, or just whatever the problems would be. You don't see that. You're not hearing that about these teams. They're both just rolling. The thing you could probably say the worst thing about the Avalanche is maybe that they are on their backup goaltender and that Kadri is, iffy coming back.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the Tampa Bay side, the Braden Point thing, him coming back. And then outside of that, I mean, just again, the age of the team and the amount of games and the wear and tear that team is accumulated over the last 3 seasons or 3.5 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, and it is wear and tear because each and every year after the Stanley Cup final, you start hearing about the injuries. They start really telling you what these guys are doing.
What they've been playing with for like months.
Yeah, for months, because this is not a short playoff here. No. We're talking about 2 months of times where you're getting hit with pucks, you're getting hit into the wall, you're getting tripped up and falling into the wall, sliding into the wall sometimes, taking pucks. I could say that one 3 or 4 more times because how often, especially if you're a good team making it to this point, it's not just the defenseman. It's not just the wing. Everyone,
everybody,
franchise player or not, is buying in to blocking the pucks, or you're exiting the playoffs. That's just how it is.
Yeah, I mean, this is how hockey goes. No team has ever won the Stanley Cup and made it this far and had an abundance of health for their team.
Yeah.
It's usually who ends up winning the Stanley Cup in the end is usually the team that stays the healthiest because it's just a battle of fruition. And whoever's there in the end that can last and has that like drive, that what's the word I'm looking for? I guess that stamina to make it there.
Yeah.
That's
durability.
That's what it is. And I mean, if you can't hold up and you can't make it that far, you're just not going to cut it.
Take a look at the league ranks from both teams. I believe these are for the playoffs. No, I mean, these are for the regular season here. So in the league rank, power play percentage, the Avalanche number 2 in the league with 31.1%. The Bolts were 8th in the league at 22.6%. That's a big difference. I do have to give the edge, playoffs or not, to the Colorado Avalanche in the playoff, in the power play department. Don't get me wrong, the Bolts have a good one, and when they're clicking hard to stop. But I've seen the Avalanche and what they can do on the power play as well. You give them that man advantage, and they're a scary team to watch. When it comes to penalty kill percentage, Colorado Avalanche ranked 10th in the league with a percentage of 75.7. The Bolts 5th in the league at 82.5. That's that blocking the puck category. That means the most. I mean, this isn't a category of blocking the pucks, but when you get into the penalty kill, it's even more so because you got 4 people in the middle of the ice or in the middle of your defensive zone trying to stop pucks flying at you at sometimes over 100 miles an hour. Goals for per game. The Avalanche ran away with it in the league. Number 1 in the league with 4.64 goals for per game. The Bolts were 8th in the league at 3.06 goals against per game. This really comes down to the Lightning, but it almost reminds me of the NBA Finals. You've got 2 really good defensive teams, but definitely 2 good goaltenders here. Number 2 in the league for the Lightning at 2.4 2.81 goals allowed per game. And for the Avalanche, it was 2.86 goals allowed per game, ranking at third. Who do you got pegged at this point in time to get the Conn Smythe Trophy, basically the final MVP?
Yeah, or like the total playoff MVP.
Total playoff MVP.
Yeah, that's what the Conn Smythe is for.
So could a guy that wasn't on either the Lightning or the Avalanche
That's never happened, but it has happened where a losing team member has won. Like, for instance, my boy Ron Hextall, goaltender for the Philadelphia Flyers in 84-85, they lose to the Edmonton Oilers in a great series. They won 7 games. He gets the Conn Smythe Trophy that year, but it's because of what he did, not only just in that series, but the 3 previous series building up to that Stanley Cup final. So it has happened before. It doesn't happen very often. I think the last time it might have happened might have been close to 20 years ago or something, or maybe a little bit more. I'm not sure exactly who got that, but yeah, it does happen from time to time. Now, right now, for me, it's going to be dependent on what happens, okay? If the Lightning end up winning and it ends up being like a series where there's not a ton of goals, you have to give it to Vasilevsky.
Back-to-back for him.
How can you not, okay? But then if the Avalanche win, there's 2 different people, I think, right now that are front runners that can get it. And if it's more of a defensive series for the Colorado Avalanche, and that says what their maybe saving grace might be in this series, then I say you have to give it to Cale Makar. Huge. I mean, that's just easy. And then if it goes the other route where it becomes a more offensive type series and there's a lot of goal scoring, as long as he's involved with it, then they pretty much have to give it to Nathan McKinnon.
Yeah.
And I think those are my 3 right there. Outside of that, another Tampa Bay player, I mean, maybe you can give it to like Stamkos or Kucherov, depending on how
Kucherov's 2 points away from having 25 points in 3 consecutive Stanley Cup playoffs, which would put him in rare company with, I believe, Mario Lemieux and the great one in Wayne Gretzky.
Okay, it's cool. I haven't seen that number, but if they end up winning and those guys do contribute during this series and help them win, then I could see maybe possibly one of those guys getting it.
All right, give me your take on it. We'll revisit it Friday. Who you got? How many games?
For me, all right, just going over the numbers and looking at things right now, I'd hate to say it, but I think you got to give it to the Avalanche just because they're more fresh and a younger team. But it's going to be a long series. I say they're going to do it in 7.
7? Yeah. I really do hope that we get 7 games, especially now finding out what I found out earlier, that I might be, not in front of a television for the duration of Game 6.
If it is an early series and it ends in like 4 or 5 games, though, it ain't going to be Tampa Bay. If it ends in 4 or 5 games, I promise you it'll be the Avalanche.
I like that. I'm going Bolts, and I'm going to say 6 now. I do have a belief that it could be 5. I don't think it'll be a sweep. Here's why, though. The Avalanche haven't played in 8 days, where the Lightning won't have played. I think by the time that we actually get to the game, it'll be about 4 days, right? So I think that you'll see a little bit of that line change rust for the Avalanche, even though they get the benefit of the home change. But I think the Lightning will come away with Game 1. Avalanche bounce back, win Game 2. I'll have a better idea of what I think about it after those 2 games, but you can never tell. Still doesn't matter. Lightning were down 2-0 to the Rangers in the Eastern Conference Final.
It's not going to matter till you go to Colorado.
Yeah. Well, we start in Colorado.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
We start in Colorado. So when you go back to Tampa. No, I'm saying I think that's why I was saying the rust won't matter as much because they will benefit from the home change.
Right.
But I still think Lightning get Game 1, Colorado gets Game 2. Then we could split again in Amalie, or you could see the Lightning win 2 games there. If the Lightning go up 3-1 headed back to Colorado, I mean it's done if the Lightning get 3 games because it's so hard. Even though they did lose back-to-back games for the first time in 3 postseasons, it's still so hard to beat that team twice. Mainly, more than anything, because of the goaltender.
Oh, no doubt. And I think if Colorado can get on you guys early in Game 1, then that's important. I think if they can score early, maybe the first 8 or 10 minutes of the game, get going. You got to get the house going too, get everybody behind you and stuff. Then you guys might have some trouble.
If Colorado wins Game 1, I do believe they'll still win Game 2, and it's going 7. If Colorado wins both 2 games, it's either going 7 or, like you said, they're winning in 4 or 5.
And on the contrary to what I was saying, the Ning, they definitely need to get into Colorado right off the bat. They need to shut those fans down. They need to just be quick off the draw. They need to start hitting them hard, send a message. Don't get flat-footed.
Don't get flat-footed. All right, we're going to take a quick timeout. When we get back, give you a quick update on the Atlanta Bravos, and then maybe me and K-Man will make our picks for the College World Series.
Your attention, please.
ESPN Northwest Florida reminds you it's the law. It's the law. When there's a double red flag, stay out of the water, stick your toes in the sand, grab a cold drink, and listen to live sports.
Swung on, miss, strike three.
On 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
Double play!
Hi, I'm Bobby Likens with today's Car Clinic Minute. Water. We sail on it and wash with it. And in cars, it belongs in the radiator. But H2O in tires is dangerous. When I come back, I'll tell you all about it.
The Car Clinic Minute.
It's Bobby Likens Car Clinic, brought to you locally by Hewitt Tire and Auto.
Call 850-769-7323.
Your certified AAA service center and hometown towing.
Visit them online at HewittTire.com.
On Airport Road in Panama City.
That's 850-769-7323. Hewitt Tire and Auto Center and hometown towing.
Water's just great in mountain streams, but when it sneaks into tires, the danger's crystal clear. Water and the dirt it carries can warp the inside of your tires. Here's how it gets in. Moisture collects in air pump compressors. When tire valves connect with pump valves, this unwanted water piggybacks right into your tire. To prevent this unwelcomed hitchhiker, jiggle the pump valve and release some air. If you get soggy, ease on down to the next watering hole. Service station. I'm Bobby Likens. Like us, you'll love us.
Tired of being overcharged each month for health insurance or finding out you still have significant out-of-pocket costs from copays or deductibles when you do go see the doctor? Hi, I'm Kevin Shady with KHS & Associates. Our independent insurance agency has helped individuals, families, and even small business employees lower their health care insurance costs with no copays, no 80/20 coinsurance, and no deductibles unless you're hospitalized overnight. Call or text us at 502-386-1128. That's 502-386-1128.
From the Florida Bama line to the Gulf of Mexico, from the Upper Grand Lagoon to McKenzie Park, we are live and local.
Whether you like it or not, you have a gift.
Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs, live from the Rib Crib Radio Room, ESPN Northwest Florida.
I want to change my mind, 'cause this just don't.
We are back inside the Rib Crib Radio Room. You guys got to help me and Caveman settle this argument, man. Notre Dame uniforms this past Sunday, were they purple or were they navy blue? I just got to know, man. I know Caveman Rick's on the purple side of the fence. I'm feeling like they were dark blue, but he's got a very great picture of the light hitting the jersey, and you can't deny it does look purple. Then you see some other pictures that are outside of the sunlight, kind of looks blue. Let me know what you guys think. Maybe we'll run a poll or something. Maybe
cool.
we'll run a poll Friday or something.
Yeah, I'm going to do some looking, I think, maybe later on when I get home.
So the Bravos, they play tonight, 6 o'clock, 6:05 for the first pitch. Max Fried on the bump for the Braves. They won last night 9-5 after a lengthy rain delay. Ozzy Albies fractured his foot. He's now on the 60-day IL. Looks like he'll be out for 6 to 8 weeks. Orlando Arcia will be plugging up second base for the time being. They also brought someone up. His name is blanking on me now, but they have pushed the win streak to 12. Man, so that's huge. 12-0 so far in the month of June. Not too shabby at all. It's their third longest streak of the wild card era since 1995, challenging the club streak of 14 straight wins in 2013. They had a 15-game streak in 2000. They've outscored their opponents by 48 runs. That's 83 runs scored to 35 runs scored against, and have a 2.68 team ERA during this streak. They've also gotten an MLB leading 29 home runs from the bottom third of their lineup. They're probably about 20 home runs off of the league leader in totality of home runs in the Yankees, who are just absolutely blasting off right now. And then you got teams like the Cubs, who are poking the bear a little bit with their social media guy who runs it. Dansby Swanson is enjoying a great season all around. He's like second in WAR for shortstops. He's hitting 292, 8 home runs, and he's got an OPS of 816. So, like I said, Max on the mound tonight. Michael Harris last night with his first big league home run, and Matt Olson is doing good things as well. Ronald Acuna Jr., Brian Snit said, Coach Snit, Manager Snit said as long as he's been around the Atlanta Braves, he's never Acuna is on a different level than those other guys. We're talking about guys like Chipper Jones, Andrew Jones. I mean, some great players have came through.
All-time Braves players.
All-time Braves players have came through that organization, and to have Coach Snit give you that type of a compliment. A lot of people want to knock his hustle and all that stuff. I mean, the guy plays the game. He might be a little slow around the bases when he jacks one, but that's the era that we're in now in professional baseball. So kind of is what it is, comes with the territory. Let's talk a little bit about Freddie Freeman, though, real quick before we got to get to another break and get into our local segment. With no runners on this year, Freddie Freeman in his first season with the Dodgers has been below average. He's hitting 223, and he owns a 597 OPS. He's striking out 21% of the time, which that's not a big deal for players, but for a guy like Freddie Freeman who doesn't strike out a lot, it is. When he has people on base, though, it's a totally different Freddie Freeman. He's been fantastic. He's hitting 381 with a 1.18 OPS and striking out only 7% of the time. He's one of the best hitters in the game, bar none. But when that just goes to show how much he misses being with the Atlanta Braves. No, I'm just kidding about that. Because, I mean, playing on the Dodgers, you're always you don't always. It's an all-star team, and there's a lot of the times when you climb into that batter's box, there's going to be someone on first base bare minimum. With runners in scoring position, he's actually even a little bit better.
Unless you're leading off.
That's true.
That's about the only time, you know.
That's true.
And if he's hitting like this, then you'd be smart putting him in like the 4 or 5 spot where you got some opportunity to put some people on base ahead of him.
Yeah, because he does normally. Well, I know with us he hits second a lot. I'm not entirely sure where Dave Roberts has him at in the lineup. But I mean, if you walk up Mookie Betts to lead the game off, and then Freddie right behind him.
As long as Mookie gets on, though. That's why I was saying.
If you move him down
a little bit more, you have a couple more opportunities to get somebody on, and then he'll, if the analytics are correct and he keeps, doing what those numbers are saying, now you're on, and that's what you want.
Yeah, with some numbers like that, man, you would think that Dave Roberts might look into that and maybe drop him down a couple slots. Nothing to do with him.
You would have think it already would have happened.
Yeah.
Why are we talking about it? And then, maybe he's doing it. If he was, I don't want to say a good manager, maybe he was already doing it, but maybe he's got his own reasons, too. We're looking at just his numbers. You're not looking at everybody else's numbers, too. And maybe there's something on the contrary that doesn't allow them to do that.
Well, Deshaun Watson is about to get two more lawsuits. And attorney Tony Busby, who represents the women that are suing Watson, told a TV station in Cleveland on Monday 2 more women are planning to file lawsuits against the quarterback. One's from Atlanta. A lawyer from Atlanta referred one of the women, and the other woman reached out to him after watching the HBO Real Sports episode that aired a story on Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's going to be interesting, though, with all these other cases coming up. Who's to say he's even going to play this year? Right now, I would say the league's definitely got to hit him, and he's going to be missing 48 games. But if things keep continuing the way they are, this guy might not see the field at all this year, or maybe at all ever again.
It's getting tough. He still is, saying he's innocent, and he regrets the impact of these lawsuits on the Cleveland Browns and his own family as well, male, female, all of that stuff. But
we're just to stop talking about it.
I mean, it's so hard not to do that when you're put in front of the press every single day. But I think you're right. I mean, it's just not a good look, and the Cleveland Browns and the Houston Texans, for that matter, and the NFL for letting this go on as long as it has, and just if more things continue to come to light and he loses these, I hate to keep going back to it, but the fact of the matter is, he said he was not willing to settle with these ladies outside of court. He wanted to prove his innocence. That was a bold-faced lie.
It was.
That right there for me is enough. You broke the NFL conduct policy. Right there, or the NFL Code of Conduct policy,
But they're
rather.
waiting because they have more stuff coming out. So
Yeah.
like, if they make a ruling now,
Oh, I'm not asking for a quick ruling.
yeah,
I'm saying
I think that's why
you
they're
lied,
waiting,
though.
This is why they're waiting and doing their due diligence, because during more time, more stuff can come out. Like I said, heck, another of these two cases come up. They're not just civil; these could be criminal again if a grand jury wants to bring charges against them.
Yeah.
So you have to wait and see.
Man, and you know what's so crazy too is, and I got to double check this to make sure that I'm right on this, but I'm pretty sure that Deshaun Watson's career record as a starter is 28-26.
Yeah, it's not like nothing stellar. Or
I know
anything
it's
like
the
that.
Texans, but come on, you're going to the Browns.
He had a lot of promise coming in the league, and that's the reason why, he got drafted to begin with. And that's part of the reason why he got offered, and got given this big, huge contract, is because the guy's got talent. With the longer you're not playing on the field, how good is your talent? The best ability is availability.
You're listening to 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida. When we get back, we're going to talk about some more about that national anthem singer whose College World Series performance was canceled for the horns down gesture. We'll give you his side of the story, and then we'll also be talking about a local who will be in the USFL coming soon. Y'all listening to 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida. We'll be right back.
This is your captain speaking. Thank you for flying with ESPN Northwest Florida. Please return to your seats, buckle up, and prepare for launch.
It will lay down. Base hit. Here comes Ronald. Braves win
The
it.
defending world champion Atlanta Braves are sponsored by Bill Burr Kia, Beltway Portable Buildings, Reliable Hydraulic Solutions, Ellis Agency Insurance, and ESPN Northwest Florida. And we apologize for any turbulence you've experienced this season with the Atlanta Braves.
Hear that? That's the plumpest, juiciest hot dogs you've ever seen getting their grill on. But we both know what'll make it sound even better. Oh yeah, it's a Pepsi to go with your hot dog. Because when you're chomping on America's favorite meal, relish, mustard, and onions perfectly blending into a crescendo of flavor, there's only one thing that makes everything about that moment better. A cold, refreshing Pepsi. See what I mean? It's like music to my ears. Hot dogs. Better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
You know that sound anywhere. It's the crisp crunch of that first nacho chip. With its perfect cheese to sour cream ratio sitting atop a layer of delicious beans, it's a sip away from perfection. That's what we're looking for. Add a delicious, refreshing Pepsi and we've achieved absolute nacho nirvana. Because while you can pile those nachos high with every spicy, cheesy, savory topping, there's no topping a cool Pepsi finish. Nachos, better with Pepsi. That's what I like.
That boot store reminds you, a special day is coming up for a special guy. Some call him father. Around these parts, it's usually daddy. And when he's around, there's a feeling of safety and security. This Father's Day, that boot store has the perfect Western outfit for that special guy. A gift card works great too. That boot store next to Billboard Kia on 15th Street. Open 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Tuesday through Thursday. 9 a.m. to 5:30 on Friday and Saturday. Remember Joe's motto, keep your Heavenly Father first in your life every day.
Bay Handyman Services is your complete home services company. Their slogan is listen better, plan better, build better. Bay Handyman Services holds a 5-star rating and they're a local company serving Bay and surrounding counties. They offer a wide variety of services from simply hanging a picture to full house remodels. Bay Handyman Services provides 24/7 emergency services. Call them at 850-753-5014 or visit their website bayhandymanservices.com.
When you want a big-time sports show, tune in for the Afternoon Underdogs.
I'm going to send you up against the best.
Weekdays from 4 till 6.
Negative, Ghost Rider?
Broadcasting from the Rib Crib Radio Room.
The need for speed.
On 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
You're listening to 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida, also 102.1 FM in the Marietta area. The Coach James Hale Show is live on 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida. We've got interviews and your calls. And Roll Tide, the Alabama Updates weekdays at 8 a.m., sponsored by Stevens Air Conditioning. Big shout out to them. They do such a great job in the mornings from 7 to 9, Monday through Friday. We've got Mosley alum and former Alabama State running back Ezra Gray is going to be competing in this year's USFL playoffs later this month. He was signed by the New Orleans Breakers at the end of May and has been activated into the team's lineup. In 51 games with Alabama State, he ran for 2,261 yards, 11 touchdowns on 525 carries. Good numbers.
That's awesome.
That's great numbers. He also caught 52 passes for 381 yards. He's got 3 touchdowns and returned 71 kickoffs. Forget this, a 21.7 yard average, which isn't too shabby. If he's if he's getting the ball at the 5-yard line or the end zone, at least he's getting you out there. And
out to the 20.
If he's getting a lot of the times, guys catching in the end zone, what are they doing? Fair catching. They have that availability now, or taking the knee and getting it out there to the 25. It's going to be a little bit different for the semifinals, which this is the last regular season week 10 here of the USFL. Then we're moving to the playoffs. They've played all of their games in Birmingham. Well, now the rest of the games, you've got semifinals and the finals are going to be played June 25th in Canton, Ohio. Just the semifinals. The finals will be the week after. You've got the Birmingham Stallions taking on the New Orleans Breakers. The Stallions are the best in their division. The Breakers are the second best. And then the other teams are, I believe, you've got
Philly and New York, New Jersey.
New Jersey. Yeah, the New Jersey Generals and Philly. So that's gonna be interesting, man. I really hope that this league makes it for year 2.
Yeah, it'd be nice finally to get something for spring ball that actually survives. And
well, you'll have XFL next year as well.
Yeah, and I hear that, but we've already seen a couple iterations of that, you know, and they didn't do so hot, you know. At least this one, they were smart. They planned it out properly. They had the proper funding going into the season, so they knew they could at least finish this season and like the next couple seasons. The only thing, I guess, going into it is it's going to have to find out about expansion and ownership. It's kind of janky having all 8 teams being owned by the league. So there's not any kind of any real parity or any kind of, you know, any differences either, because you'd have different outlooks. You'd have different philosophies on how people would build a team. Not to mention, you know, obviously Birmingham Stallions are in the playoffs. They're the #1 team. And, oh, by the way, they've been playing at home.
Yeah, it's been a big help.
So, I mean, yeah, that's kind of understandable. So it's kind of neat seeing how they're going to play, like over in Canton, Ohio, maybe in a little different scenery. We'll see if it still holds up or if they ended up, you know, not playing so well.
I'm excited for this weekend. I'm also excited for Ezra Gray, though, because here's a chance to, all right, get yourself solidified on this roster. And if the NFL doesn't come calling after, you know, your appearances here, then you can get another year in. And, you know,
this will at least get him an invite to a training camp.
That's what I'm saying. Eventually, people are going to see the talent of which Ezra Gray holds. You know what I mean? This guy's good. He's really
got some
good.
value. So, like I said, yeah, you get the guy in, see what he can do on your roster and preseason games and such, and then maybe he makes a career in the NFL.
So just about 3 minutes left, but wanted to get back into this national anthem singer who has been canceled for the horns down gesture. This guy's not an Oklahoma guy, is maybe what you would expect or suspect.
A&M.
He's an A&M alumni. Zach Collier. He's a 27-year-old U.S. history teacher in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And like I said, also went to Texas A&M. So he posted screenshots of emails that came from the College World Series of Omaha, which said it was contacted by the NCAA because they have documented proof that he made offensive gestures in mockery of a participating team, and we do not feel comfortable allowing him to perform. So Collier told ESPN on Tuesday that he's been singing the anthem at sporting events for the past 10 years, including several at A&M sporting events when he still lived in College Station. He's sung for the Houston Astros, Texas Rangers. He said he understood, though, why someone might take offense to the gesture during an anthem performance. I'm a neutral party. This is a quote from him. I'm a neutral party showing my support or lack of support for a certain team after the anthem. I can see how somebody could be upset with that. But the reason I posted wasn't because I was upset that they said, hey, you shouldn't have done that. It was because they called the horns down an offensive gesture. They said I mocked the other team. Those words specifically are why I posted about it. Saying that I'm making a mockery of a participating team because I put a horns down is ridiculous. In Caveman Rick's words, soft. I agree right there with you. As a result, he said his issue with the NCAA considered the horns down offensive. Absolutely not. I believe it's a part of the rivalry. It's part of college sports. I don't believe the horns down is any more offensive than a gig 'em or a hook 'em or a wreck 'em.
Yeah.
He's 100% right here. What is wrong with our daggum culture these days that every little thing that we do is offensive, especially in the world of sports?
This is Texas, though. This is Texas. And they have a lot of power, unfortunately. And when they say things like this, people take notice, unfortunately. But I just ain't with it.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that either,
Actually,
man.
I'm all about, now because we know that you guys don't like this, I'm going to do it all the time because I know it offends you and you don't like it.
Well, they do. I mean, they are one of the more, or one of the only fan bases really that get kind of up in arms about doing that. But if you were to, we don't really have hand signals as much at Alabama. But if you were to,
It's like we mentioned earlier. If you don't show us that it bothers you, guess what? Nobody's going to do it.
Yeah.
And then you can sit there and cry about it. Everybody's going to do it to you because you're a little baby. And you're crying like a 3-year-old girl with like 2 skin knees. Get over yourselves, Texas. I'm sorry, old school.
We're out. Y'all are getting off of the crazy train now, and we're taking you to the Atlanta Braves. Game 2 of the Washington National Series tonight in Washington. Max Fried about to take the mound in just a few short moments, barring there is no rain.